You ever notice how some people stay stuck in the same cycle for years, complaining about their situation, but never actually doing anything to change it? They'll tell you how unhappy they are, how things aren't working out, how life keeps throwing them curveballs. But then, when you offer solutions or suggest they try something different, suddenly there's an excuse for everything. Too risky, they say. What if it doesn't work? What if people judge me? What if I fail? And so they stay exactly where they are, holding on to the very thing that's keeping them miserable, like it's some kind of security blanket. Here's the brutal truth most people don't want to hear. You're not stuck because you don't have options. You're stuck because you're terrified of letting go of what's familiar, even when that familiarity is slowly killing your spirit. Think about it. How many times have you stayed in a job that drained your soul because leaving felt too scary? How many times have you remained in relationships that weren't serving you because being alone seemed worse? How many times have you avoided taking risks because the possibility of failure felt more frightening than the certainty of staying exactly where you are? The thing is, your brain is wired to keep you safe, not to make you happy. It's designed to avoid pain, not to seek growth. So when you face a choice between something familiar and something unknown, your brain will always choose familiar, even when familiar is actually destroying you from the inside out. But here's what your brain doesn't understand. The biggest risk isn't failure. The biggest risk is never trying at all. The biggest risk is reaching the end of your life and realizing you spent decades holding on to things that were never meant to be permanent. See, most people treat their current situation like it's permanent, carved in stone. They act like their job, their relationship, their financial situation, their living arrangement, their social circle, all of it is fixed and unchangeable. But none of it is. Nothing was ever meant to be permanent. Everything in your life right now is just a temporary arrangement. Your job, your relationship status, your financial situation, your living situation, even your problems are temporary. The only thing that makes any of it permanent is your decision to hold on to it. And that's where the real prison is built. Not in your circumstances, but in your grip on those circumstances. Not in what's happening to you, but in your refusal to let go of what's happening to you. You know what the difference is between people who transform their lives and people who stay stuck? It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not connections, it's not even intelligence. It's their relationship with letting go. The people who transform their lives understand that holding on too tight is actually the thing that keeps them trapped. They know that sometimes you have to release your grip on what is in order to make space for what could be. But most people hold on like their life depends on it. They cling to jobs that don't fulfill them because they're afraid they won't find anything better. They cling to relationships that don't serve them because they're terrified of being alone. They cling to grudges because they think forgiveness means weakness. They cling to old versions of themselves because they're scared of who they might become if they let themselves grow. And all that holding on, all that gripping, all that clinging to what's familiar, it's exactly what keeps them stuck in place. Here's something most people never realize. The very thing you're holding onto for security is often the thing that prevents you from finding real security. That job you're afraid to leave because you need the money, it might be the exact thing stopping you from finding work that actually pays you what you're worth. The relationship you're staying in because you're afraid of being alone, it might be blocking you from meeting someone who truly values you. The comfort zone you're protecting so carefully isn't actually protecting you, it's imprisoning you. And the wild part is, you already know this deep down. You know that nothing changes if nothing changes. You know that insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. You know that if you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. But knowing and doing are two completely different things, because doing requires letting go, and letting go requires trust. Trust that you'll figure it out. Trust that you're more capable than you think. Trust that the universe isn't conspiring against you. Most people would rather stay in a prison they know than risk freedom they can't guarantee. They'd rather cling to familiar pain than reach for uncertain joy. They'd rather complain about their circumstances than take responsibility for changing them. But here's the thing about letting go. It's not about giving up. It's about opening up. It's not about losing control. It's about realizing you never had control in the first place. It's not about becoming careless. It's about becoming courageous. When you finally understand that your tight grip is actually choking the life out of your dreams, that's when everything starts to shift. When you realize that the safety you think you're creating by holding on is actually the danger you're creating by not growing, that's when you start seeing possibilities instead of just problems. The people who effortlessly create the lives they want, they're not doing anything magical. They're just willing to let go of what doesn't serve them to make room for what does. They're willing to release their grip on certainty to grab hold of possibility. Think about water. Water doesn't fight the rocks in its path. It doesn't grip onto the banks of the river. It flows around obstacles. It adapts to whatever container it's in. It finds the path of least resistance. And because it doesn't hold on to anything, it can go anywhere. But most people live like ice, rigid, frozen, unable to adapt, breaking under pressure instead of flowing through it. They hold their shape so tightly that they can't move, can't grow, can't change. The difference between ice and water isn't the substance. It's the temperature, the environment, the willingness to change form when the situation calls for it. And that's what letting go really is. Not weakness or passivity, but fluidity, flexibility, openness to receive what's trying to come into your life. So here's the question to ask yourself. What are you holding on to that's actually holding you back? What are you gripping so tightly that you can't grab hold of anything new? What are you so afraid of losing that you're preventing yourself from gaining? Because the truth is, you're not stuck. You never were. You're just holding on too tight to see the doors that are already open. Now, here's the most dangerous part. You can understand all this and nod along, but if you don't actually practice releasing your grip, you'll stay exactly where you are, because holding on feels safer than letting go, even when that safety is slowly killing you. Think of it this way. You've been gripping so tightly for so long that your hands have cramped up, your muscles have locked into position, and now, when someone tells you to relax, to open your fingers, your body literally fights it. Your mind is the same, trained to hold on, to control, to resist. Doing the opposite requires conscious effort, but here's what happens when you start practicing. As you loosen your grip on outcomes, opinions, your need to control. At first, it feels terrifying. Your mind will scream you're being irresponsible, even dangerous. That's normal. It's old programming protecting you. But if you push through that discomfort, something incredible begins. You start noticing the opportunities that were always there, but invisible while you were forcing things to work a certain way. Doors open you never even knew existed. People respond differently to you because you're no longer carrying that desperate, needy energy. The key is to start small. Don't try to let go of everything at once. That sets you up to fail. Instead, pick one area, maybe your morning routine, expectations on messages, or your timeline for a goal. Choose one thing and practice loosening your grip on it. Notice what happens when you stop forcing that outcome. Feel your body relax. Notice your mind settle when it's not constantly calculating or worrying. This is what freedom feels like. And once you taste it, you'll want more. Here's the beautiful irony. The very moment you stop chasing something so desperately, you often end up getting it anyway. But by then, you realize you didn't need it as much as you thought. You were just addicted to the chase, the struggle, the familiar tension of gripping tight. Here's something that might surprise you. The people who seem to have everything figured out, who move through life with ease, they're not holding on tighter than everyone else. They're holding on less. They've learned life works better when you work with it instead of against it. They've discovered the river flows more smoothly when you stop trying to dam it up. But let me be clear. Letting go doesn't mean passivity or giving up dreams. It means releasing attachment to how and when those dreams have to manifest. It means trusting. If something is yours to have, it will find its way without you strangling it into existence. The strongest aren't those who cling the longest. They're the ones who know when to let go. They've learned true power comes from flexibility, not rigidity, from stepping back and letting life surprise them. So ask yourself, what if you loosened your grip just a little? What if you stopped controlling every detail and started trusting that things will work out? What if you replaced fear of uncertainty with curiosity about what's possible? The answer could change everything. When you stop holding on so tightly, you finally have space to receive what's actually meant for you. And that's almost always far better than what you were forcing. If you've made it this far, you already know the truth. The moment you release your tight grip on what you think you need, everything shifts. But here's what nobody tells you. Letting go isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice. Your brain will always try to convince you that letting go means losing control. That's its biggest lie. Real control isn't gripping. It's knowing when to hold on and when to release. It's like driving. White-knuckling the wheel doesn't make you safer. It makes you dangerous. People who flow through life effortlessly aren't lucky. They've learned that resistance creates more problems than it solves. They've figured out the secret. Sometimes the best move is no move at all. They let the current carry them instead of fighting upstream. Here's your challenge. Pick one thing you've been gripping too tightly. Maybe a relationship, job, or an expectation. For 1 week, practice loosening your grip on just that thing. Notice what happens when you stop forcing outcomes. You'll feel discomfort, normal, because your mind equates control with safety. But watch what actually happens. You might discover that what you were controlling was controlling you. The truth is, most of what we cling to isn't even real. It's stories we tell ourselves about how things should be. And while we strangle those fantasies, life is unfolding around us. Real opportunities, connections, possibilities. When you're not busy forcing doors open, you notice the ones already unlocked. When you stop obsessing over one narrow path, you discover shortcuts, alternate routes. When you stop demanding life look a certain way, you start appreciating what's actually here. This doesn't mean passivity or abandoning dreams. It means holding your goals lightly. Pursue what matters, but don't let the pursuit imprison you. Work toward your vision, but stay flexible about how you get there. The most successful aren't those who never face resistance. They're the ones who dance with uncertainty instead of fighting it. They adapt, they pivot, they find new ways forward when the old ways stop working. So stop telling yourself you're stuck. You're not trapped. You're just squeezing too hard. Loosen your grip, take a breath, and watch how quickly things begin to move.